Frederick, welcome. It's great to see you and have you be part of The World as It Could Be, 4 Questions at a Time initiative, especially since I believe we first met in 2012. And I remember explaining to you what The World as It Could Be was about and how important our rite of passage was, and you stopping me and saying, "You don't have to explain. I'm doing a documentary film on rites of passage." And that began what I consider just a terrific collaboration that we've had. You did a we'll link to it, but you did a wonderful program that we did together at Balboa High School in 2013 on the importance of rites of passage, that you presented so much terrific information. And you inspired us when we started our rite of passage by recording what we did through the year and creating our video about that. I mean, that's just the beginning of some of the work. So I'm thrilled that we now have this opportunity to spotlight what you're doing with Warrior Films.
Well, thank you so much. You know, it's just a pleasure and a privilege to, frankly, converse with you anytime, but to be doing it, you know, with your extended supporters is a real gift.
All right, well, let's talk about you and Warrior Films and shed some light on how important the work is. So I'd like if you could explain what is the work carried out by Warrior Films and who is involved in this work?
Yeah, well, the timing is perfect for this conversation because a week from today will be our 20th year anniversary of the founding of Warrior Films. And in fact, I just got a notice that the magazine Business Insider just published a story about us, about our 20th year anniversary, which we can share later with your viewers.
Absolutely.
So I basically started the company in 2003 because I had been concerned ever since 9/11 about the state of the world. And I actually began to sketch out my thoughts. And I wrote a kind of a treatise, a kind of a statement of purpose in that early founding document for Warrior Films, saying, we live in dangerous times. And I asked myself, what needs to be done? What can we do to basically improve our relations with our neighbors in the most immediate sense, but also in a kind of a global sense with the people that we inhabit this beautiful planet called Earth? And what can we do to underscore our interconnections and our understanding of each other, and also to sort of promote and grow and sustain community well-being? So that's really the impetus that the company was started with. And I said, it's going to take the passion and commitment of a warrior to do it. And that's why I called it Warrior Films. So, you know, we also, on our website, we have a wonderful quote, which actually, if you'll permit me, I'll share with you from Sitting Bull, which for me encapsulates how I'm trying to reappropriate the term warrior into its more original positive connotations. So here's Sitting Bull. Warriors are not what you think of as warriors. The warrior is not someone who fights, because no one has the right to take another life. The warrior is one who sacrifices himself for the good of others. His task is to take care of the elderly, the defenseless, those who cannot provide for themselves, and above all, the children, the future of humanity. So that was, you know, one of the inspiring statements that, you know, helped me to get my head around the founding of Warrior Films. So what we do is basically we produce works, primarily film, but also increasingly books, and of course, blogs and public talks, workshop facilitation, many different things, but all of which help to introduce either new ideas to people who might not be familiar with them, like rites of passage, or ideas that they might already be familiar with, but to see them in a new light and to understand them in a new way. So, what we do as a nonprofit company, we do not provide services. So we don't directly feed, clothe, or house people, but we take a kind of a meta level approach to issues and understandings. And we try to introduce these important ideas to people and inspire them to incorporate them into their lives and to use them to see the world in a new and different way, and then to enact them, to make changes in their life and in the lives of those around them using these ideas. So the range of ideas is huge, and it really only reflects my own interests, really, because the company is really shaped to my my wants and needs and personality, frankly. But there's a lot of different essential ideas, and absolutely rites of passage is arguably the most important one. But they all go back to how do we sustain and enrich communities, and they all go back to cultural practices. So what are the values that we need to incorporate and sustain in our culture and pass along to create generativity from generation to generation? So we talk about rituals, we talk about myths and stories, we talk about morals and ethics. We talk about the practices of the mature masculine, which is something that is dearly important to me, and actually was a huge awakening for my own life when I had my own rite of passage into mature adulthood and began to appreciate what defines and what sustains the mature masculine. And of course, mentorship is absolutely essential as well. So forgive me for talking for so long, but I wanted to give you as thorough an answer as I could.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll follow with this question because I think it will help also bring in the different kinds of people that you connect with and how they're affected by the work. So what are the different ways that the work of Warrior Films touches the lives of the different people or groups of people who you interact with?
Yeah, well, we have lots of different partners in lots of different areas, sort of the different issue areas, if you will. And there, again, there's quite a range. People interested in Buddhism, people interested in how teens matriculate successfully into young adulthood, like you. Veterans. I just recently finished a 5-film series about veterans. And then also in keeping with the rites of passage theme, my newest film is actually focused on the dying and how it is that we can better include the dying into our cultural practices so that they don't become apart, in a sense, from society. They're not, ghettoized. We have a huge river of denial that runs through our culture where people do not accept death and dying. And so the simple purpose of this film is to highlight different cultural practices of what I call life-honoring celebrations, or you could call them living funerals. So before someone passes, we gather as family and community to sing the praises of someone who is passing. So we don't wait until they're dead before we all gather and say wonderful things about them. We say them to their face while they're still alive. And we say, this is how you made a difference in my life. I'm a better man because of you doing this, this, and this. So anyway, so that's the present project. But the different groups that we participate with and work with sort of benefit in a number of different ways. So one of the most tangible ways is that we give them publicity for the good work that they're doing. And in a sense, we alert the world to the kind of great work that they're doing, including the world as it could be. So that's one important thing. So I'm all about, as a filmmaker, highlighting solutions to problems that face society. I'm not interested in just making films about problems. I want to highlight the people that are making a difference right now and show the world what they're doing, and have powerful stories created from what they're doing to inspire others to do something similar. So, but they also benefit in another way, which is arguably a little more intangible. But one of the things that I learned going back to making my Boys to Men TV series back in Newark, New Jersey, around 2000 and 2001, you know, one of the mothers that I was filming, a mother of a teen boy, it was all about 15 and 16-year-old teen boys, and all about the challenges that they're facing in crossing that threshold into mature masculinity. The mother, Robin Buey, at one point in the middle of an interview, she turned to me and she said, "Frederick, because of you, I understand my son better. I actually know him more completely and more deeply because of you, and how you come to me and say, I think he's feeling this, and I think he's questioning this. And just the questions that you yourself ask me help me to understand him better." So that really hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought, my God, that's one of the most important pieces of praise and recognition that I've ever had in my 45 years of work. And it helped consolidate for me my thinking that the process of me coming and making these films and working with these partners is also about their transformation, is also about their human transformation. So I actually make this arguably rather pretentious promise to many of the subjects that I work with. And I say to them, look, if you're willing to partner with me for this process of making this film, whether it takes 1, 2, 3, or 4 years, I guarantee you that at the end of this process, you will be a better man or woman. You will be changed. And it will be by virtue of the fact of partnering together and my process of holding up a compassionate mirror to you and your life. Because ultimately, that's my job, is to understand their life as deeply and as empathetically as I possibly can, and then to present it on film. So that's something that I now do when I actually enroll partners to work with. So again, I'm back to your original question. I've partnered with many different veterans and veteran groups. At this point, actually, if you go to our website and click on Veterans Journey Home, we have a resources page. You can see listed there up to about 140 of our partners, individuals that we've partnered with, as well as institutions. And then certainly, the film Journey from Zanskar that we made, we partnered with the monks from Stongde Monastery in this very remote corner of India called Zanskar, which used to be part of Tibet. And these monks basically have committed their lives to doing what they can to improving education in their impoverished community in Zanskar. And what they're doing is not only bringing the best of Western education to bear, but they're also including Tibetan language, culture, and history, which the local schools do not teach universally. So their own culture is dying. And so that was the whole impetus behind us making this film, which basically shows these monks embodying the Bodhisattva vow of doing everything they can to reduce the suffering that they see in human lives in the world around them. So so they've benefited tremendously from the film that we made, Journey from Zanskar, in terms of publicity. And now there's a hospital that has been built in Zanskar, partly because this group of people saw the film and said, oh my God, we need to bring our services to these individuals. So they partnered with the Strong Day monks. So in a lot of ways, it's very intangible, what it is we do, because again, we're trying to change human consciousness. We're not providing direct services. But once we change human consciousness, everything is possible. And so we've seen changes manifest themselves in many, 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 many ways over the years.
And continuing, I hope even as we can bring some attention to these documentaries that you've done, that it can have continuing ripple effect, which I think is the whole point, right? It doesn't just stop. That's the wonderful thing about film and its ongoing impact potential. Well, this next question, I know from even our earlier conversations, it's going to be kind of a duh to you. How does this work intersect with the principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and human rights education? I know this is pretty easy for you to answer, but I'd love to hear how you explain it.
Well, thank you. Actually, it might be a surprise to you, but it was the one that I had to give a little bit of thought to, because it's not sort of an automatic in a way for me. Now, I was introduced to the UDHR through making a film in the early 90s. And that was one of the earliest things that we got to share together, this hour-long documentary called Out of the Silence. And this film was designed to be a celebration of the 35th anniversary of the signing of the UDHR. So 1948 when it was signed, and the film was released in 1993, so 35 years. In that film, I got to learn for the first time the beauty and the magnificence and the incredible reach of this important document that I had been unaware of beforehand. So when it comes to, in a sense, implementing these principles, I would say that I do my best to embody them. That actually they're an important part of every, well, not only every film I make and every book I write and all of the principles that are embedded in all of those, but it's also important to me to be a guide star for interactions with people, how I relate to people, how I work with people. And, and this is something also intimately, because you've been so generous and kind to facilitate some of our board meetings, our board retreats. And, we spend a lot of time, as you know, every morning in sort of establishing the ground rules by which we'll relate with each other. And then those become important hallmarks for the whole day's proceedings. So all of that is absolutely essential to me. There's so many aspects of the UDHR and those principles that you could spend a lifetime basically drilling down different paths of that document and just unearthing all of the folds and potentialities of meaning that are there. But I have no simpler way of saying it other than I really try to embody those principles and bring them into every work I make.
I know this will be helpful in inspiring others, because that is really the idea. I think, the document itself is just that. It's a piece of paper, but it is how we embody the ideas as people that is going to make the difference ultimately to realizing what they're about. Thank you for explaining it so beautifully. So what do you want community members, leaders to know about the work of Warrior Films in terms of why it's important and how they can help further this work?
Well, we want to change the world. You know, we are,
I'm
I
with
have,
you.
what's that?
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Well, I've never been short of ambition. I'll say that. Reach is another thing, but ambition, I've got plenty of. So, you know, when it comes, let's just say one aspect of this, which we share in a way, teens. I want to see that every teen on the planet is initiated and mentored into adulthood. That's a very simple statement, but it's a very huge and ambitious goal. And so I'm doing everything that I can to make that possible. Not only the films, but my second book is basically all about that. So what can people do? Well, we're a nonprofit company. We're a very small company. And I intentionally keep it that way because I want to be light on my feet. I want to be able to respond quickly to circumstances that are happening and be able to produce works that can help contribute to solutions to those problems that are emerging. Well, actually, a very recent example, there was an article published in the New York Weekly just last week. It was an interview with me, an article about me and my thoughts about how so many of the mass shooters who are teen boys around our country are in effect uninitiated, unmentored boys. And that, yes, there's many, many ways to divide and look at this issue of mass shooters. But one of them that people don't typically consider is that these boys are unconsciously expressing a need for initiation. They want to go out and prove themselves as men. And they're doing it in the maximally dysfunctional way, no argument, right? But of course, it's modeled for them by contemporary culture that, the way you prove yourself as a man is you pick up a gun and you go out and shoot the bad guys, right? Well, so at any rate, we need to begin to wrap our heads around this. And I can, guarantee you that if any of these boys who have been mass shooters had been adequately mentored and initiated into mature adulthood by a supportive, loving community, this never would have happened. They never would have acted out in this way because they would have had pro-social ways to enact coming into mature masculinity and in order to be seen as an accepted peer among adults in their community. So anyway, so that's a recent story that just came to mind, but we need help of all kinds, as a small nonprofit. So I just invite all of your listeners to consider which of the three treasures do you have that you can make available to us? And the three being time, treasure in the sense of money, or other, resources like that, and talent, right? So we can benefit from all of them. If you can donate your time, great. We need volunteers to do all kinds of things that can support our good works. If you have treasure and it's easy for you to just write a check, God bless you. We always need money, right? What nonprofit doesn't? And if you have particular talents, maybe particular people who are in the Hollywood business who might be interested in distributing or streaming, any one of our many films. We have a huge library that is available for all kinds of licensing opportunities. Then great. We've had celebrities come to us and say, look, how can we basically hold a fundraiser for you, or, some kind of meet and greet? Harold Ramis, who was my dear friend and mentor, and actually was on the board of Warrior Films for a number of years. Most people know him as the actor, but he's the director, writer of Ghostbusters and Groundhog Day and so many wonderful films. We tried to set something like that up with him. He's like, fine, I'm in, let's do it. So these are just some of the examples. If you go to our website, you can see many more. and just simply reach out to us. And we're happy to basically incorporate any of those three treasures that you have on offer.
It's a great invitation. And if people look at your website, the different documentaries that you have, people can share them, or I guess you have to license them, but people can point to you, to your website, to say, take a look, get involved. I would assume that would be another opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. At the very least, come to our website and just sign up. Give us your name and your email address. I send out newsletters about once a month, and I typically fill them with all kinds of inspiring stories of social change happening around the world, as well as, yes, some self-promotion, some of the good things that we're doing. But I was going to say something else about that. Oh, yes. We actually now, for the first time, we have a fully functional store. So people can go to our store, and you can order any of the 3 books that I've written, and you can order any of up to about 20 of my films. You can rent them for $3, and you could buy them for $9. And then, of course, if you're just sharing with friends and family, then please do. Share the work with others, and then hopefully you can enroll them. But, if you want to do more than that, then we're happy to go anywhere, anytime, and partner with anybody, pretty much. So if you want to have us into your home or into your church or into your community group to show, let's say, the veterans films, and to invite veterans and their families and their children, great. We're happy to do that anytime, anywhere. And that's true for any of the films on any of the subjects.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Frederick. I'm always inspired when I talk with you, and having been involved with your work through that, been inspired, but this is even another level up. I really appreciate this opportunity to hear what you're saying and get it out to the extent that we can, to let others know. And I have to add that you have reinforced what my passionate statement was about the importance of rites of passage. I've believed it then, and I continue to have that. And I'm looking forward actually to looking into a possible concept for an adult rite of passage for community engagement, like how to feel like you're part of your community, and to use our basic structure that we've had for young people, but also to bring adults into that, to feel like they are belonging to their communities, because I feel like this is something vital for our sense of we're in this together.
Absolutely. Well, and the parents and the adults often get forgotten when it comes to the rite of passage of the teens. But in fact, becoming, a so-called empty nester, that is a rite of passage, right? And so parents need to go through this rite of passage as consciously and as supported as they possibly can be, in order to, in effect, take on, let go of some of the burdens of their previous identity as parent and provider, and to take on new identities, based on who they are as individuals, right? Because they have a lot of life left to live, hopefully. And so they have to either rediscover that or discover it for the first time, who they are and what kind of difference they want to make in the world.
That's right. I feel like we all need that sense. I think this idea of feeling like we belong and we're part of something is vital. And certainly young people need that more than ever. And I think your point about gun violence is something we need to bring out more. And so, because communities can do a lot to help initiate their youth, there's no reason why that can't be done at a much grander scale. So there's room for further collaboration on our part, which I look forward to.
Oh, me too, very much.
All right. Thank you.